Welcome everybody to another edition of the DNN Hangout. We do not have Mr. Ralph Williams with us today. He is playing with a car in a shop and picking up children, and he's very regretful that he can't make it this time. So, yeah, poor Ralph and his beautiful Mustang. I don't feel sorry for him. Do you, Johnny?
No, I should have went Chevy.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. Well, we might have to end this interview now. It's fighting words in some parts of the country, isn't it?
Right.
Well, as you can see, we got Mr. Johnny Gregory with us. If you're not familiar with Johnny, you probably may, if you've been in the community for any length of time, you might have been familiar with him and didn't realize it. So he's joining us from Omaha, Nebraska. He's a client partner. I guess that's your title, client partner at Fortuitas. Did I get your title right?
Yes. Yeah.
Client partner. That's what I found on the website.
Well, there's no easy term for what I do, so it's just a bunch of different things, and that kind of just, is everything.
We're going to get into some of that for sure. Yeah, so he's also a member of the DNN Awareness Ecosystem Advisory Group. Somehow from Nebraska, he's also a Lakers fan. That's weird. We might ask about that later. Game of Thrones fan. That's not weird at all, but don't say anything about this season. We're catching up. I'm rewatching it again. Right now I'm in the middle of season 4, so so like that makes Instagram really difficult. I'm like scroll. Oh no, it's Game of Thrones, scroll.
Yeah, it's even tough like the day of the episode.
Yeah, right. What else we got here? Avengers fan. You call yourself one of your jobs the Thor? The in-game Thor?
Yeah, spoiler alert for anybody who hasn't seen Endgame, but yeah, I'm pretty much Endgame Thor.
Well, it's one of those fun things. It's not really a spoiler, but it's just one of the things where you also don't want to tell anybody. Oh man. What else? Oh, something else in preparing for this. I noticed in your Facebook feed that you're apparently a lookalike with Mr. Obama himself. So little doppelganger, huh?
Yeah, that is true. I've been noticed once or twice, and they're like, Mr. Ex-President. I'm like, no. Stop it.
Yeah, and the most important part, he's also a thief. How is my Xbox doing?
It is doing gracefully in my son's room right now. So.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Dad upgraded to the Xbox One X, and son got the old DNN Xbox One.
Yeah, it still has a skin on it?
It does, yeah.
Nice. I have my old Xbox as well that has the skin on it, and I never fire it up. I just like it sitting in my living room with the old DNN logo and branding on it.
Right, yeah. and just for the viewers out of there, Will is a little still after, what has it been, about 8 years that he's lost out on that.
Yeah. So that was, for those that weren't at that particular DNN event, it was the South Florida DNN Con, I think, right?
Yeah,
and the giveaway was, and I think it was the first year there, one of the giveaways was an Xbox, a branded Xbox, and I was like, I want that. But, I ended up getting my own anyway. I kind of had an end since at the time I was working for DNN Corp. I just had another skin created. Yeah. Oh boy. Yeah, so let's see here. So we have some good questions for you. So let's see here. So you've been in the community for a while, and the way that some people might have at some point gotten in touch with you is probably the same way you got in touch with the community. Way back in 2008, you joined a company that was then known only as Power DNN. Is that right?
That is correct, yes.
So that's how you found DNN, or DNN found you?
Yeah, so DNN kind of found me in a way. I just moved to Omaha, and I was looking for a job, and I saw a posting on Craigslist for a help desk technician, and got interviewed by Tony and worked my first 2 days out of his basement, and then we moved into an office building. And so I was one of the first 6 employees of Power DNN.
Wow. I didn't realize that. 6 employees in the basement, true startup stuff, huh? In Omaha.
Yeah, it was recliners, basement, laptops, and shortly just after that we moved into an office down in the Bellevue, which was the city that it's hosted in. Rest is history.
Yeah. Wow. So in the new space, did you have any beanbag chairs and stuff? Did you truly embrace that startup mentality?
Yes. So there was just a lot of really cool stuff happening at that time because the company grew very, very quickly over the course of the next 4 to 5 years, and we would have office parties and just all sorts of just random stuff. We had a couch that you could sleep on, and I mean all the typical startup stuff that and it was just a fun environment when we went there.
Nice. So your title there was Global Sales and Marketing Manager. What were you? Well, but you got hired on as a help desk tech, right? So you grew up in that company a little bit, right? Yeah.
So I spent about a year, I think, doing help desk, and I worked a lot. I worked the night shift, so there might have been a little bit of World of Warcraft playing on my own laptop, of course, and while I'm doing DNN upgrades, and so. But so it was a good time. But it was a good time though. Yeah. So, and then at the time, John Grange was the sales manager, or the VP of sales, and he had asked anybody that was working on the help desk, because really it was just Tony, John, and then some techs, and that was it. And he asked, I'll give anybody $50 to sell a server. And I sold 20 servers that month.
That is help desk.
And then he was like, you're going to be our sales team.
Wow.
So shortly after that, I was the one-man sales team for Power DNN. And when John left, I took over managing the sales department, and grew to a couple of different team members from there, and we just kept rocking and rolling, selling servers and doing our thing.
Yeah. So for those that aren't aware, when Power DNN was founded, that's Tony and John that you're referring to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. So, and by the way, I forgot to mention this. Our spoiler, and I got your buddy here.
Oh, nice.
I almost forgot about that.
I should have brought my Sean Walker bobblehead.
Oh, I got one of those over there. Yeah. But I mean, I'm at my desk with a camera, so I may or may not have pants on, so I don't know if I should get up.
It's cool. I know exactly how that is. Button up from the waist up. Yeah, so let's see. So Power DNN, that's kind of impressive. So did you have any sales experience before that, or is that your first kind of foray into it? Yeah, that was really my first taste of sales, and figured out that it was something that I really enjoyed, and I was pretty good at it. So it turned me into who I am today.
And definitely somebody we like. That's why you're on the show. Yeah. You're one of the fan favorites at our events for sure.
It's always a good time. I love the community there. It's when you grow up with somebody for the last 12 years, can't believe it's been 12 years, but it pretty much has. That's an amazing feat in itself. But just to be around all the people that we've normally got to be around for conferences and just talking with people over chat or whatever, you get to know people, and it's a really awesome community. I love it. Yeah,
absolutely. And we're going to talk more about the community in a second. So during your time at Power DNN, we'll get to the acquisition after, but did you do any formal training for sales and marketing, or did you just kind of like, you work on the job training, figure it out, this worked, that didn't, and keep going?
Yeah, so probably about 90% of it was just on the job, figure out what works, and then, a lot of Google searching, reading books, and finding out kind of just what fits your personality and your style. And you kind of create your own sales persona as you go along, and you kind of discover things about yourself, what you're good at, what you're not good at, and you try to emphasize the good and decrease the not so good things about your personality, so that you can be amiable to people and really build rapport. And to me, sales is really just a conversation amongst friends that you could build a relationship around. And I think those are kind of the best sales that you can make, are ones that you have a really great relationship with.
I couldn't agree more. That's a very well said aspect of sales. Like I personally, I hate sales. I hate it, but I'm good at it too. And I didn't realize it until I was at DNN Corp. One of the departments I ran was the sales engineering departments, and we worked together on stuff back then. Mm-hmm. And at some point, the CEO at the time was like, "You're really good at sales," and I was like, "What? I hate sales. How can I be good at it?" but like if you take it from the perspective of being a person, and trying to build a relationship, and you're focused on whatever you're selling is something that's good and can sell itself, and it's completely different. And I also found that inside of an organization, if you expect the organization to be successful, everybody in the organization has to be focused on sales. Everybody has to be a salesperson in some way, shape, or form. Would you find that to be the same for you?
I do, yeah. And some of the best running companies, people are essentially promoters. They love their company, they believe in the product, they know that it can help somebody. And I think that's when you have the best kind of synergy with what you're doing as a salesperson, when everybody is just on board with everything. And I've learned a lot over the years of selling, is that the big thing for me is you have to believe in the product that you're selling or the service that you're selling, because if you don't, your heart's not going to be in it, and if your heart's not in it, you're not going to build a relationship. So it's one of those things where you have to really be in tune with, and this is going to sound cheesy, but you have to be in tune with your feelings, because at the end of the day, the person on the other end of the phone is a business owner. They have a lot at stake. Their family's involved with the business, things like that. Things that you normally wouldn't think of because you're just dialing a number and talking to a person. But you have to be aware of things like that, because it does mean a lot to the other person on the other end.
Yeah, absolutely. So search your feelings, Gregory. Yeah. So after a while, Power DNN was acquired by Managed. What was the acquisition process like? Were you guys excited? Did you see it coming? How was that experience?
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that happened before that. So Power DNN didn't get acquired by Managed. It was a decision to build the brand beyond just Power DNN. And so Tony had hired Jeff at that time. We all know Jeff Hardy. And we decided that we wanted to build the brand as a more global brand for everybody, really. And so that's when we started introducing Manage.com. A year or two after that, that's when Manage got bought out by SYC Holdings, which was the company that was out of Minnesota that bought it from Tony.
Yeah, I mixed that up. I don't know how I did that. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, it was the rebrand. So the rebrand was kind of important, and it's kind of a major stepping stone. Do you feel like the rebrand led to the acquisition, and was the acquisition? Do you feel like that was like a good thing, or what do you feel about that?
I have mixed feelings about it. I think that Tony made a very good personal decision for himself to take a step back and do his own thing. You know, he'd been running a company pretty much day and night for you know, a dozen years, 10 years maybe, and you know, something like that does take a toll on somebody. And so he just wanted to take a step back and make sure that it was in good hands. The folks that he sold it to are two very smart individuals, and they run a bunch of companies, you know, for outside of software. Just, you know, they're very good businessmen. Didn't know a lot about technology, which was one of the things that I thought was kind of weird. But you know, they let the core team that was still there kind of run the show and try to give direction to Managed. And but at this point, you know, Managed was pretty much a beast running on its own. You know, there wasn't really going to be a lot that was going to stop it. So I mean, it's still, you know, I'm assuming, I don't know, I haven't really checked in with the folks there for quite some time, but you know, I assume that they're still running things just the way that, you know, Tony had planned. And you know, maybe with the new recent acquisition from Deluxe, they might actually have some more technically savvy people running the show that have had experience with like hosting and things. So I think that their future is pretty solid, pretty set.
Yeah. So one of the things that people, you mentioned, like, you know, your feelings and the customer's feelings, like you went through from tech support through sales and marketing. And one of the things that's, you know, I just went through something recently where we only see one side of that, right? As a customer of a hosting provider, when stuff happens, we're like, oh my God, my site's down, fix it, you know, what's going on? So, you know, every web host will go through outages, even Azure and Amazon, they have outages. So from your perspective, on your side, like what kind of chaos would you say is going on behind the scenes? Like, oh my God, stuff's down. We need to get stuff back up for customers. You get upset. Like what does that look like on the other end?
Yeah. So when we were with Managed, you know, when we had, you know, like for a lot of people that don't know, pretty much anybody that runs a data center is relying on a backbone of, for layman's terms, I'm going to call them internet pipes. And they go all the way across the country, and they're owned by companies like Level 3, AT&T, CenturyLink. So very large, very big companies. And the data centers rely on those companies to have very good uptime. But when a backhoe driver, for instance, takes out the entire pipeline to the internet at the data center because they're digging a ditch for a new fire hydrant, you know, it's kind of an all hands on deck. And we've had instances like that at Managed where it wasn't just the tech team, you know, trying to solve the problem. It was everybody. You know, we stayed late. We made sure that everybody was communicated to properly. We you know, we did it as a team, and you know, I think you have to respond properly like that as a team coordinated, so that you can set the expectation and allow your customer to feel a little bit better, even though the situation is a site down issue. You know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's an art, handling those inbound inquiries.
Well, especially when you've been around so long and so many people have your cell phone number that you just keep getting called. Yeah. So sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes it's a bad thing when they know your number, so they don't need to call into the support line. They can get a hold of Johnny or Jeff or Tony directly, you know.
So I'm sensing that backhoe example was a real world example.
Yeah.
Oh, that.
But there, I mean, that is something that happens all the time. Like, you know, Level 3, AT&T, all of those guys, they will have outages in different parts of the country that will affect something from LA, will affect something all the way to New York, and there's nothing that you can do about it. you just have to sit and wait for them to repair it.
So I'm going to transition off of, this isn't an advertisement for them. They're not paying me anything. So I want to transition off that and continue to learn more about Mr. Johnny Gregory. So moving from there, like you start to get immersed in the community, and anybody who's stayed in the community for any length of time knows how fun and passionate and engaging it can be to be a community member, especially if you manage to go to some of these events like DNN Connect next month, Switzerland, June 6th through 9th. Go to dnn-connect.org. Join us. Are you going to be going to that event?
I will not, no, unfortunately.
All right. Have you gone to one of the European events before?
No, I haven't had the pleasure yet. So
maybe they never sent you. They sent Jeff. They sent some other people. They never sent you. That's messed up.
They never sent me. Yeah, I had to stay home and sell.
Okay, so so you got engaged in the community. You've stayed in the community. You're not a developer. You're not a theme developer. But you've managed to still, participate in the community. What about the community continues to drive you to want to be part of it and engage with it and talk with it and help it?
I think mostly it's the people. I've built friendships, decade-long friendships with a lot of people like yourself. That everybody's super fun to be around. The one thing that I love about this community is that even though pretty much everybody is a competitor business-wise, we're all friends and we all want to help each other. Mm-hmm. And that is something that I don't think can be fabricated or it's built over the course of time, and you can't just replicate something like that. It's something that is we took the time to want to be friends and want to help each other and want to build this community the way it is.
Exactly. Like these events, I always say this, I'm a broken record with this, but it can't be said enough, especially for somebody who's seen this for the first time. But like the events are probably the most important part of it, because you get to see these people face to face that you have been conversing with, maybe over the phone, maybe over like online meetings or the forums or what have you, and you get a chance to like share a beer together or whatnot, and like these relationships, it's like it becomes a family reunion of sorts to go to these events. It's kind of, but in a good way. Like there's less drama in my opinion than a lot of the family events I've been to.
Right.
So you end up at Fortuitas. When Jack Kurtz, I happen to know Jack. Jack's a great guy. How did you land there? Like, because I know you went to another software company and then you ended up at Fortuitas. How did that come to you?
Yeah. So, I went to a company selling basically ERP software. Found out that it felt kind of like car sales, which, by the way, I've done. And so it wasn't something where I was helping people build relationships. It was more of get to the bottom line, sell this many units, or you're done kind of thing. And I did really well there, but it just wasn't something that I really pictured myself or believed in. So I had a hard time just selling the product by just me believing in it. And so, I wanted to make a change, and Jack and I have always had a really good relationship. I've worked with him a lot from my PowerDNN days, and I called him up and I was like, hey, I'm looking for a change. What do you think? And it just so happened that he had a position open where he needed some help, and now, so.
Nice. Yeah. So that's one of the things for me over the years too. Like, I realized right before I started Upendo that I hadn't updated my resume in like 13 years, but I had several jobs over that 13-year period. So it's just like a matter of like, hey, yeah, you want to do this or this opportunity. So that's one of the other great things that's been very beneficial about the community, I guess, for both of us is that it's just kept leading to opportunities.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been really great in that regard. And over the years, you've managed to also build a family during this time. And so how does Jack at Fortuitas feel about you having named your son after him?
Well, see, I did actually have my son before I started working at Fortuitas. So it wasn't intentional, but yeah, it is funny having a conversation with my wife because sometimes she's thinking I'm talking about our son, but sometimes I'm actually talking about Jack from Fortuitas. So
Fortuitas, huh?
That it's a good time.
Yeah. So Fortuitas, you are. So it looked like I may have gotten your title messed up, but I got it from the website. What is your actual title there, and what do you do?
No, you were completely right. It's client partner, but I just wear a lot of hats, and so there isn't like an easy title to say. You know, I guess the more appropriate title would be doer of stuff and things. And that, I mean, so, you know, but as the client partner, you know, I work a lot with new business and partnerships, and I also have my hand in marketing for Fortuitas as well. And so there's a lot of different things that I'm always going back and forth, and you know, just trying to keep busy. Well, I do keep very busy here, but it's just one of those things where this position is one of those ones that it's filled with a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun because I get to be creative. I also get to sell. I also get to, you know, do a little bit of dabbling in, you know, design and development. And so, you know, like I get to do a lot of things here, which is really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm one of those too. I kind of can do a lot of things. One time, one of my first employees, actually years ago, he's like, you know, I kind of hate you a little bit, Will. I was like, oh, that's like what I do, you know. He's like, you know, there's a lot of people who are the jack of all trades, but they're master of none. But like, you're really good at all of them. I'm like, oh, thank you. I never thanked somebody for telling me they didn't like me before.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So let's see here. So at Fortuitas, you I say it different every time. It's Fortuitas. Fortuitas. We can. So it's a pretty impressive client list. Like, well, first of all, what does Fortuitas do?
So really, what it comes down to is that Fortuitas we build and integrate systems that help businesses solve really complex technical issues. And so a lot of times what we're doing is companies will come to us and they say, we have a problem with our website. And so we're like, okay, what's the problem? And then we figure out through a series of, you know, discovery calls, or, you know, we'll do an in-depth analysis, or we'll just start going in and looking at their systems. And we find out that they're using maybe like an out-of-date piece of software, or they have no, they don't connect through like a REST API or anything like that. And so we'll help them build all that to where it meets, you know, all the most current and stable technology aspects, so that, you know, that everything runs seamlessly, so that it all talks to each other. And that's really, you know, beyond just the design and development of websites and mobile applications. That's really what we do, is we help them solve really complex problems with our technology.
I like that. You said that once or twice, haven't you?
A few times, yes.
That's good stuff. So, I mean, for Fortuitas, though, there's the client list is pretty impressive. We got U.S. Army, Department of Defense, Mars, Tennis Channel, Whiskas. I've spelled that wrong. I used an S in there for some reason. Tom's Shoes. That's pretty cool. In California.gov. I remember when that one came up. I think that one came up when I was still at DNN Corp. What would you say that Fortuitas does to really attract this level of client?
Well, a lot of it is we had a lot of really good opportunities early on that, especially in the government and the state realm, once you're in, you're in. and we've been fortunate enough to work with all branches of the DoD, which is really cool for both of us, really, for both of us being veterans. It's nice being able to work with some people that you respect and you believe in, and but it's just one of those opportunities that came along, and some of the opportunities were things that came about through just partnerships and different things that we're doing. So I think the reason why a lot of these folks stay with us is just based off of take it back to our core values of quality, integrity, and service. And everybody wants to have somebody that treats them right, treats them with respect, and gives them a good service. So, and that's what we do.
That's awesome. It looks like your Fortuitas is partnered with quite a few tools. There's BigCommerce, HubSpot, Xamarin, and of course DNN as well. Like, how much would you say DNN comes into play with projects? And like, are you guys just like, do you do, okay, clients need X, Y, and Z, DNN fits, or DNN first? Like how does that come to play?
Yeah, so DNN is always usually on the table in some way or another. But what we try to do is that we try to build what we feel they should have as holistically as possible. So we base it off of their needs. But for a lot of their needs, DNN solves. And one of those things that we actually do really well is that integration. So what we've been doing recently is it's kind of a buzzword right now, but everybody's talking about like headless commerce and things like that, and just e-commerce in general. And what DNN does really well is it helps you build a website very quickly and very nicely, and it's behind a layer of security that a lot of people like. But the one thing that I feel like it's lacking is that when you have a storefront module, there's a lot of things that go into it that you have to build into as a business. So you have to think about things like PCI compliance, how you're processing credit cards, things like that. But with a headless commerce solution, you can bolt on DNN right on top of a SaaS-based e-commerce solution and run them both together seamlessly. And that's what we've really been doing, and that's part of the reason why you see the BigCommerce logo on the website, is that DNN allows us to build that really nice, good-looking front end, and then we just tack on BigCommerce on the back, and you have a fully SaaS-based e-commerce solution that you don't have to worry about PCI compliance, you don't have to worry about processing credit cards, you don't have to worry about hosting, you don't have to worry about any of that, and it's very secure and very stable. So that's kind of like what we do with Xamarin as well. As we're plugging mobile applications directly into DNN as the front end website. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that we do that I think it's hard to explain because it's so much on just building connections on the back end of systems.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, it is hard to explain. I have to, I do networking in my own area, and explaining that to some folks is challenging at times. So one of the things I noticed is that you appear to blog quite regularly on the Fortuitas website. Are you ghost blogging? Are you actually blogging yourself?
No, that's 100% all me.
Wow. So I mean, that's even more impressive then. I mean, because there's a lot of blogs there, and the topics are kind of vast, right? There's Xamarin, e-commerce, BigCommerce, ebook, DNN Summit. That's an easy one though. The client success, marketing, security, search engine optimization. There's one about sales, about Uncover the Why. That was pretty good. There's also some employee spotlights. Like, where and how do you come up with your blog topics? Like how do you like constantly just keep like a running list of like, I need to blog about this someday?
Yeah, so we use HubSpot as our marketing automation tool, and so they have a really nice plugin that you can basically just like push a topic to basically a draft board, and you just keep it there until you want to write about it, essentially. So it just creates an idea for you, and then you just write off of the idea.
Nice. So do you find you gather inspiration from any particular place, or are you just like, it just pops in your head and like, oh, I need to do this later?
Yeah, so it's partly inspirational. It's partly kind of what's going on today. The Instagram story that was a blog post that I did a couple of weeks ago was something that BigCommerce just released, like as a press release. And so you do have to kind of be on top of social media and track certain things. And so I use Twitter for tracking topics. And if I find something that I think is blog worthy, I'll just start writing on my phone and just what I'll do is I'll just pull up a notepad and just start writing, and then I'll send it to myself, and the next day it's in HubSpot and we're sending it out.
The secret sauce is revealed.
You just gotta do it when you get inspired.
Yeah. So with the employee spotlights, you one of them was your boss and friend Jack, right? So you wrote about that. Like, was it easier because you know him so well that you're basically writing about your boss? Like, how was that difficult?
No, it was actually really fun, because you put a couple serious questions in there and have a nice little, fun question at the end. But it's good just to hear the answers from the source. Just you always think what the answer is going to be, but when they tell it themselves, that makes it really nice.
Yeah, so I'm glad you said that, because one of the things I found was interesting is one of the employee spotlights was about Johnny Gregory. So how did you interview yourself?
So what I did is I set up 2 chairs and I moved back and forth between them very quickly. No, that was actually probably the hardest one to do, just because, I'm very hypercritical about myself, and so I was like, this is gonna be dumb, And so I was just like, I'll just put it out there. I'll put it out there, see what people think. But it got a lot of reads, so I'm happy.
Awesome. So being with Fortuitas also allows you to engage in the community more, and in some regards, it allows you to get paid for doing it, right? So like that's pretty awesome. And that's what we're all trying to find is like, you balance the commerce with the open source, so that way you can do this stuff, right? But one of the opportunities that just led you to was being able to speak at DNN Summit, and you spoke right after me, and you said that was your first speaking engagement, right?
It was, yes.
But I happened to find Johnny Gregory speaking at Southern Fried DNN in 2015.
What?
Yeah. Found it online.
Oh, did I really?
I believe you were not on site though. It was over video conference. So
it was a hangout. Yep.
Yeah. And I was looking at that. Can't trust this guy anymore.
Well, yeah. I mean, I've never given a session before, so.
Yeah. So because that format was more or less like this. It was a conversation to be had. So having done that now, your first time, well, first of all, what led you to decide to speak?
I think just wanting to be involved a little bit more, and I'm not the guy building modules or themes or websites, but I do have a lot of experience when it comes to talking to people who have, and and so I tried to pick a topic that was something that was personal and that I have experience with, and I think that people would get a lot out of. And it was all the stuff that I had learned doing marketing over the last few years, and I think it was a really good topic, and I think people liked it, and it was I just wanted to do it. Like I said I don't know if you remember, I think you were in that conversation, but I said I wanted to speak at next year's DNN event, and I did.
Yeah, it's amazing how easy that can be. You just have to make the decision and just do it, and just jump in, right? I remember when I first made that decision years ago. It was when Telerik was still kind of new, and so it was like really cool because before that you had to build all this stuff yourself. So it was earlier days in the .NET lifespan. But there was a guy coming in. I remember his name. His name was Brandon. He was coming in, switching off with the next speaker at a code camp in Florida, and the one speaker was tearing down, like, you know, they're switching off, and he's like, oh, okay, you know, good luck, or this is your first session, like, good luck, or whatever. And I was sitting there going, oh, cool, like, first time session. Okay, I'm gonna see this. He went through the session and stuff, and it was great, you know, like, there was nothing, you know, that kind of stood out about the session itself that was, like, good or bad. It was just a good session, right? And at the end of it, I was like, wait a minute, I can do that. Like, this is the first time, like, you don't even, because it opened my eyes up to, like, oh, okay, like, you know, a new person can just decide to do this. And so the very next year, I presented at the same code camp. So yeah, it was just, to me, speaking, there's a lot of benefit. You know, there's some reward to it. So now, having come up to it, first of all, how nervous were you doing it your first time? And now, having had done it, how do you feel about it after the fact?
I mean, obviously I was pretty nervous, mostly because I just didn't want anything to go wrong technically. You know, I hear horror stories all the time about, you know, PowerPoint presentations just disappearing or something, you know.
Keep going. I got a book I'm going to show up there. I'm still listening.
But yeah, no, definitely nervous. But I think the nervousness ended after my first question. And then I was like, oh, yeah, this is totally something that I can do.
All right. So now you know I have my pants on. And stop looking at my butt.
But not to.
This is a really good book. Confessions of a Public Speaker, because everything that could have gone wrong, this guy talks about, and because it had gone wrong. I love that book. And it makes you feel better that, like, you know what, if something goes wrong, so be it. It just happens. It's part of it. And a lot of the times when something goes wrong, most people in the audience don't even realize it. It just, but we're like, time's moving at a different speed for us. We're in our head. You know, why did they move? Are they paying attention? This person walked out. Is that because of me? You know, like, there's just a lot of these things that go through your head as a public speaker that now you're on the other side of that. So having done that, you did all the prep, you spoke, you went through the kind of the raking over the coals, all this stuff, and now you've been through it. Do you plan to speak again?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So what was your favorite thing at having presented at DNN Summit? What would you say is, like, you know, your favorite part of it, and, like, what would you do different?
Actually, I really enjoyed the getting questions during my session, because it actually made me feel a little bit more comfortable, because I knew that people were engaged and curious, and, you know, that's really what you want out of your audience, is to have questions about what you're talking about, and it knows that you're hitting at least some points that the audience might like. I think probably what I would do differently is maybe try to amp up the presentation a little bit by not using PowerPoint as much, and maybe trying to have it more of like a public speaking engagement. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I think after my first one, I don't know what to change, really, you know. So we'll see.
Sounds like you already do. You just said it, and then you backtrack. So for anybody else out there who may be thinking about speaking, or, you know, maybe this has inspired them, hopefully, to put their hat in the ring, like, what tips would you give them?
Just to go all in on it and prepare, and you know, no matter what, your slides don't have to be perfect, but just make sure that your knowledge about the content is. Absolutely.
And my additional tip would be to echo what you're talking about with your change is less words. Less words on the slides. You can talk to people. Otherwise, they're just reading the entire time, and then they're like, what did you say? And the worst part of that is they remember less, right? So little tip out there for people. Now we're getting close to the end of our oops. So we're getting close to the end of the interview, and why is it not scrolling? There we go. As far as the community stuff, there was another question I wanted to ask. Oh yeah, if there's anything about the community or DNN for that matter that you feel like you could have the impact on to make that particular change, what would it be?
It's a very good question. I think really is the biggest thing that I would like to see from DNN is a continued movement forward with technology. We're starting to do that with the migration to .NET Core. I think that's extremely important, but also just with little things that are might help with just streamlining the way that DNN works. In regards to things like drag and drop and rich text editing and WYSIWYG editors, things that are some of the points that draw people to DNN for its ease of use, but then also to see the technology evolve to something that I think DNN could actually be more, which would be something more along the lines of what you see from places like Sitecore and Episerver, where they're starting to venture in their own offering like marketing automation and commerce built into the software itself. I think that solidifying its future within modern technology is important.
So along those lines, when it comes to DNN, like in your role, you talk to people a lot that are decision makers, and influencers within their organization. When you're not able to make that sell, in regards to DNN, maybe they're like, oh, you know what, I am going to go to Sitecore or whatever. What would you find is like the most common reasoning behind them not choosing DNN?
The people that we talk to generally already have been using DNN, so it's an easy sale, to be honest. The problem that we have are when you are looking at somebody that is going up against, they're looking at Drupal, they're looking at Sitecore, or they're looking at X, Y, or Z, and you have to compare those to DNN. I think the biggest place that they fall short in is the fact that they don't have it. There's no true SaaS-based DNN solution, and so I see a lot of people going there. And yes, there is a I don't know. I guess we won't go there.
Yeah.
we'll edit that one out.
I think I know you're going. All right. So I do want to thank you for spending time, being interviewed, being on the hot seat. At this point, this is where I normally put Ralph on the hot seat and have him review something, but he's not going to be here. So instead, I have a tip I'm going to put out there. It's pretty cool. Oh, above and beyond this one. I didn't even know I was going to do that one. Yeah. And of course, all links will be in the show notes. But I was listening to a new podcast that a friend had turned me on to, and it's Jordan Harbinger, Jordan Harbinger. And it's a really good podcast, actually. He's a really good interviewer and whatnot. But he had a tip when he was talking to one of his more recent people where, it was two-pronged, actually. The first part was when the power goes out, the first thing that people do is like they walk outside, right? Like, is it just me? And they start looking around, right? Are the lights on out there? And his tip was, and I guess, if you're more rural, this might not be applicable. I'm not sure how rural you are where you live, but if you're more rural, this is probably not as good of a tip. But if you're not, he says, turn on your phone and look for the Wi-Fi. If you don't see any Wi-Fi on there, you don't see any hot spots or other routers, pretty much the power's out everywhere. I was like, oh, duh. You don't have to go outside and see your neighbors anymore. And then the other part of that too was apparently in some environments the internet still will run as long as the router still has power. And so having like in my office, having a UPS in there is a no-brainer. That's been since day one, right? But now they got a UPS for the entertainment center, right? So now, like when everything goes down, the internet still works, and I can still watch Netflix and TV. The important things. So some tips there. I'll put the show notes, put that in the show notes for the podcast as well as the UPS that I'm using. But let's see here. Do you have any feedback about that tip? That's I thought it was brilliant. It's so simple.
Yeah, I was totally not expecting that tip, but that's I am going to test out the next time, the Wi-Fi thing. So
I can't wait for the power to go out.
Yeah.
I want to see.
And then I'm going to be sad when it's down for like 4 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want the power to go out, but should it go out, so we're going to have an experiment gone right or wrong. Yeah. Oh, the other thing too, just as a closing tip. So part of one of the things I asked you about was it kind of hit me close to home recently. Is I had an outage myself, right? With hosting. And it was one of those things where it was like a severe outage that just is unavoidable, right? Sometimes just, the right piece of hardware goes down and it could cascade things, right? So on one specific server, it was kind of scary because I realized there's no backups. I was like, uh-oh. Luckily, everything came back up and it was all good to go. But I had been putting off trying the Evotiva DNN backup module. Have you tried that?
Years ago.
Years ago? So I'm not going to do a demo, but... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the last time I had attempted to use it was in DNN 7, I think. Okay. So I'm sure it's evolved quite a bit since.
I don't know if it has or hasn't because I haven't ever touched it before. I've always used other stuff, but I was like, wait a minute. Looking at the requirements for it or the product specs or whatever, the specs that the things it does do, I was looking at it. I was like, well, this kind of does everything that other stuff does, but in a way that's really focused on DNN. And it was kind of impressive, right? Because usually I'm using some sort of server level software or something. But this allowed me to use something in the ecosystem, support an ecosystem vendor, and get all the same benefits of having an automated backup solution both on the server and off. So now I got on-site and off-site backups, and I'm able to support a DNN vendor. So I'm going to put that link out there too. So if you're not doing it, even if you have a personal website, it's cheap enough. Go get the Evotiva DNN backup thing. It's going to make you rest easy whenever you have your own outages. Do you have any outage tips or any last tips or anything to promote for you, Fortuitas? Anything at all? You guys hiring? What do you need?
Yeah, so in the next coming months, something that's near and dear to my heart, I'm working on a Fortuitas redesign.
Ooh.
So be on the lookout because it's super cool. So.
Of course it is.
Yeah.
It's going to be the best redesign ever.
No, so it's actually gonna talk a little bit about more in depth about what we do at Fortuitas, and it's gonna give people a really good insight to our capabilities as an agency, and hopefully people will just enjoy what it looks like, because I think it's gonna be it's gonna look a little bit different than what you're used to from Fortuitas now.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Okay. Do we have an expected timeline?
We're maybe the next 30 days.
Oh, that soon. Okay, you heard it here first. 30 days, Fortuitas.com, right?
Be there.
All right, we're holding you to the fire. That's a project requirement right there.
All right, I'll put it on the plan.
All right. Well, thank you again, Johnny. Appreciate it. Appreciate your time. Thank you for spending some time with us. Thank you for your participation in the community. Thank you for speaking. I really appreciate it. And for all of you out there, thank you for watching the show. Really appreciate it. If you have any tips, comments, suggestions, anything else, please put them in the comments. Please, subscribe or whatever else you want to do or not. And otherwise, I'm going to, start giving you Avengers spoilers and Game of Thrones spoilers. All right. Any closing words, sir?
No, thank you so much, Will. Thanks for having me, and I will definitely be seeing you around.
All right. That's a promise, right?
Absolutely.
All right. See you at the next event.
Have a good one, man.